Hello and welcome to Be a Better Leader, focusing on the new world of work and how your leaders can help your organizations thrive. I'm Jennifer Colosimo. I'm the president of the Enterprise Division at FranklinCovey, and I'm joined by Liz Wiseman, the CEO of the Wiseman Group, as well as the best-selling author of Multipliers. Thanks for joining me again, Liz.
Oh, Jennifer, it's so good to be here.
One of the really interesting and I think unique things in Multipliers is this focus on looking for genius. You know, the shift from there's only so much genius in the world, I know the geniuses, versus no, everyone has a native genius, and how finding that helps and drives engagement, better results, so on. Can you speak a little bit to this idea of looking for genius?
Well, looking for genius, I think, is one of the fundamental roles of managers. Now, I probably started my career trying to get people to do their jobs. And I think it took me, I don't know, maybe decades to figure out that, Ryan, rather than trying to fit people into narrow jobs, a much more productive and rewarding approach for everyone is to look for what people just naturally do. Like, what is the work that just flows from people? And to figure out how to use that in their job, or maybe even use it across a broader team. So native genius, the way I refer to it, or natural genius, is what people do easily and freely. And why it's so important to get access to this is it's what people do easily and freely. So if you do it easily, you do it well and quickly. It saves time. Like, people do brilliant work effortlessly. Mm-hmm. And it's what we do freely, meaning we do it without being compelled, commanded, or rewarded, or even recognized. It's like we want to do it. And so what you do is you get great work done proactively. Kind of like it's getting that flow state going across your whole organization. So if, as a leader, you can find it, you're going to get the best work from people, and they're going to do it gleefully. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't reward them and recognize, yes, but they're not waiting for it. It's kind of like everyone's working in this sort of like bonus time.
Well, and obviously all of us as leaders have, and I think everybody has felt that moment in time, at least as an individual, where you lose track of time, to your point, flow state. You start to that's how you want to contribute. So what are some practices, some questions, any ideas on how to identify that?
Well, I usually find the hard way to do things and the easy way to do things. And the hard way to do this is for a manager to spend a lot of time with someone, to observe them at work, to kind of be studious about it, to look for what do they do, not just in their job, what do they do at home, what do they do across their whole life. Now, there's an easier way for those of you who don't have time to study people, or you're working on opposite ends of the country or different time zones or countries or languages, is to simply ask them. I'd love to have this conversation that has a whole team, like you don't have to be like, what is your native genius? It's a little bit weird, perhaps even creepy. But like, what is the kind of work that you feel like you just do freely and easily? And what is it that your mind was built to do? What is it that you can't help but do? I also like to look for what is it that people can't help but do. They're going to do it not only when they're not asked, they're just going to do it. Almost even if you ask them not to do it, they're going to do it. And I find, like, if you just listen to people, they'll tell you. And the hard way to put it to work is to look for opportunities everywhere. Okay, is this a place where we can put Jennifer's native genius to work? Now, the easy way is to say, like, Jennifer, we love this thing that you do brilliantly. Like, we respect it. We need it. If you see places where you can add value, like, go for it. Or the easiest way to do this is to have this conversation across an entire team, so that everyone's aware of each other's native genius and everyone's scouting for opportunities to use it. It takes all this pressure off you as a leader.
Right.
And I probably would I think I can guarantee that every organization that we have sat down with the team and had the team talk about each other's native genius. It felt a little bit weird at first. And when we were done, I think to a organization, they've said it's the best thing we've ever done as a team.
Great hint, great team activity. And also, I love you getting to the easy way. I was thinking, yes, I'll need to sit and observe everyone, none of whom are co-located with me. So I'm going to shift a bit, Liz. I know you've been asked about this quite a bit. I've been asked about it quite a bit. Our organizations are looking for ways that leaders can help build resilience in their teams. The ability to have a setback and come back from it and even thrive out of that. And how you build resilience, I think a lot of what is in Multipliers drives toward that. Can you speak a little bit either to the role of resilience, how a multiplier can help build resilience in an organization as a leader?
Oh, well, Jennifer, I think you captured two really important facets of resilience. One is the ability to come back, to bounce back from something. And the other is to thrive. And I think they're a little different. So I want to take each piece. I think one of the most important things leaders can do right now is to build a team that can learn individually and learn collectively, particularly where we're leading in times of uncertainty, we're bound to be making mistakes. So how do you create an environment, not that is mistake proof? I think that's a lot of old thinking of leadership. Like, okay, we're going to create an environment where people don't make mistakes. Right now, you need to create an environment where people can come back from mistakes. And, to do this, we need to kind of detoxify this idea that, making a mistake is avoidable, that making a mistake is bad. Helping people build resiliency is really helping people learn, helping people come back from mistakes. Now, there's a little line in Multipliers that I see quoted and tweeted a lot. And as I was writing it, I thought nothing of it, but it goes something like this. It's like the highest quality of thinking cannot emerge without learning, and learning cannot happen without mistakes. And I'm like, why would people be quoting that? That's so obvious.
Maybe to you, I think.
But it just seemed like nothing to me. But then I think that is what building resilience is about, is like, how do we turn like mistakes into learning and that learning into high quality thinking? And the leader's job is just to build a very rapid recycle, which is like, okay, someone makes a mistake. They can admit that mistake, which is an important leadership job, which is how do you create enough safety that people can say, I screwed this up, rather than pretend that didn't happen or turn that into some faux success. I made a mistake. Like I can admit that. I can learn from it. I can bounce back and try it again. So how do you go from mistake to success really fast? It's almost like the coach's job in helping athletes recover. If you talk to any, these pro athletes, what they're trying to do is they're trying to shorten recovery time from strenuous workout to when their bodies can then do another strenuous workout. And there's all sorts of like treatments and therapies and vitamins, substitutes. I don't know what the word is.
Right. Supplements.
Thank you. Supplements that people can do. And that's what we want to do, is we want to reduce recovery time between you made a mistake, you came back and you found another success. Now, one of the ways that leaders can do this is talk about their own mistakes. Like, oh yeah. It's funny, of all the things we looked at that leaders do and what they can do to create an environment of learning, the number one thing was talk about your own mistakes. Yeah. I had young kids when I was doing that research, and I think it was one of the reasons why I spent so time with my own kids, not talking about, oh, mom was great, mom was popular, mom was smart. I was like, oh yeah, I was a complete screw up. And it wasn't until my daughter said to me, I think she's probably in middle school, she's like, Mom, grandma tells very different stories about you and your childhood. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, grandma talks about all the things you did well. And I hadn't realized that I was focused on my mistakes because I wanted them to know it's okay.
Well, and creating that space, like you mentioned, that is a shift. And as you think especially about work, and that maybe lack of feeling of control that a leader or a manager has as things have been shifting and people may not be in front of them. One of the shifts is I need to put a lot of pressure to get the best work, to how do I create the space for the bold thinking, the innovative thinking, the ability to create resilience in this group. One obvious great hint, practice, is admit your own mistakes. Do you have others that help create space?
Oh, yeah. How you react to mistakes is going to really shape that environment. And, is a mistake something serious, or is it actually something to kind of enjoy? Now, one of the practices, and this is from my own experience as a leader, I think I read a book. It was called The Double Goal Coach out of Stanford. And I read it at just sort of the right time in my life. And what they talked about is that the best coaches, youth sports coaches, they have routines that allow people to recover from mistakes. They have recovery routines. And I remember something from that book where when somebody really flubbed up, the coach would do this flushing motion, you know what, we're going to flush that right down the toilet, and it's gone. And so I would do a lot of things like that with my team. And one of the things I did was we would have screw up of the week. Every week at our staff meeting, I'd be like, screw up of the week. Sometimes people would share their own. Sometimes I would say, I'm like, okay, everyone, before we start, we got to talk about what Ben Putterman did this week. Okay. Ben Putterman did this. And we would laugh and Ben would laugh. And you could look at that and say, oh, wow, look at Liz. What a cruel leader. But actually it was saying you know what? This is going to allow Ben to move past it. And it's going to let everyone know that if you make a mistake, you're not going to be mocked behind closed doors. You're going to be mocked right here for 2 minutes. And then we're going to move on and you get to move on. And I think being able to be lighthearted about it actually allows people to move forward.
Well, and obviously to be able to do that, you created some level of psychological safety. It was safe to do this. It was normal to do this, and undoubtedly did help build the resilience of the team.
Yeah, I think one huge collective example of this we've seen recently, this being recorded in June of 2021, is the Dear Intern phenomenon on Twitter. So a lot of people know that HBO erroneously sent out some message to millions of their customers, and it was like a test, testing something. So it turned out, it was someone from their IT department sent out this test email. It went out to everyone in the production database. And the initial wave was people like, oh, what a big screw up. Well, then HBO says, okay, it turns out, yeah, this is sort of maybe a little stereotypical, but it was like an intern's mistake. And so Twitter then erupts in this trending line of Dear Intern. And it was, Dear Intern, you know what? It's going to be okay. Let me tell you about mine. And so it's a fun thread to follow. And it's everybody saying, let me tell you about this thing I did. Don't worry, you're going to be okay. I once brought down a production database. I once did this. I once accidentally, deleted everyone's employment in the company, and I lived to tell. And I think that represents this kind of spirit that leaders need to build on their team, which is not to encourage mistakes, but to encourage people to recover and to perhaps even be a little bit light.
I love that story. And we don't have time to go into all of mine because I could definitely add to the Dear Intern trending right on Twitter. So many things. So Liz, thank you for joining us. We appreciate talking about creating space, creating resiliency, having that psychological safety, and really appreciate your stories. Thanks for joining us.
Jennifer, thank you.